Welcome to your Barbados Today Evening News Update for Friday, April 12th, 2019. So glad you could join us. I'm Carol Williams. The Barbados government appears set to pass its second IMF test. Word of this comes from the International Monetary Fund's Deputy Division Chief for the Caribbean, Bert Van Selm, who says the Barbados Economic Recovery Transformation Program is on track. Van Selm told Barbados Today he is satisfied with the island's progress so far.
So far it looks good. So we set quarterly targets, and all of the end December targets were met. The next set of targets is for end March. For some targets it's too early to tell. We don't have the data yet, but what we can see so far is that performance as of end March also has been quite strong. And when the team goes to Barbados in May, we are going to take a close look at that, working closely with the authorities and do all the number crunching and try to confirm that. Also on the structural side, in terms of new legislation and changes to the way the government of Barbados operates, things are moving in the right direction.
The IMF officials stressed that the country must continue to stick to the program to drive down debt and spending. Warning that there was no quick fix to the economic ills, Van Selm conceded that Barbados must continue to make the necessary sacrifices. He is, however, confident of positive outcomes.
We are pretty convinced that this is something that can be done. Of course, otherwise we would not have given our support to this program. So we think the government is on track also with the budget that has now been approved by Parliament for the coming fiscal year to meet that 6% primary surplus target. And then it's just a matter of adhering to it. So after that, after this year, this fiscal year, 1920, there will be no further tightening of fiscal policies. It will just be a matter of staying the course. And what we expect to see then is a gradual recovery of confidence of markets and international participants of Barbados, which will lead to inflows of capital into Barbados. So as long as the program is adhered to, we think the prospects are good.
Prime Minister Mottley today made a strong case for Barbados and other small island developing states to be given a fair deal. Mottley was among speakers taking part in the second annual Washington, D.C. panel discussion series hosted by Boston University's Global Development Policy Center and the UN Conference on Trade and Development. She lamented that the one-size-fits-all rule continues to hinder the development of sovereign small island states.
Instead of us using criteria that make sense, like vulnerability, inherent vulnerability, in the same way that we refuse to make it with the WTO, we used rules that ignored the reality of small states. Our contribution to global trade in services is 0.0001%. Our contribution to global trade in goods is 0.0000%. We have no capacity to distort, but imposed upon us are the same one-size-fits-all rules in the same way that it is done for anti-money laundering, for all of these counterterrorism financing, when in truth and in the circumstances are that the countries that are really impacted and the real threats are not us, but in the developed world, in the capital cities.
Another attorney at law is taking issue with government's amendments to the Bail Act. Alvin Babb told today's Democratic Labour Party's lunchtime lecture that the changes which restrict bail to accused who are on remand for serious offences like murder are flawed and unconstitutional.
So isn't the margin of error greater when the police who wasn't there, who is acting on the strength of information, wouldn't the margin be greater that they may also have the wrong person? And it's for that reason why some countries have totally abolished the death penalty. Because we're all human beings. So how do you tell me that I am charged and I am to be sentenced for 2 years up front, when in fact the evidence after a trial may in fact show that the witness are the wrong person? What happens there? And that's the danger of what I call this mandatory 2-year sentence. It is a front-loading of a sentence, as we will call it in legal terms.
Scotiabank is closing its Holetown branch effective July 19th this year. In a statement today, the bank, however, said there will be no job losses. The bank said staff will be reassigned to other positions within the business, while others will join the Warrens branch. In addition, all customer accounts will be transferred to the Warrens location. Scotiabank explained that the decision was taken because of the way customers are banking, along with concerns about the aging facility and space constraints. The bank said it will, however, continue to maintain an ATM in Holetown at Rubis Sunset Crest. Agriculture Minister Inder Ware says he's prepared to put the case of pig farmers to cabinet. This week, President of the Barbados Agricultural Society, Woodville Aline Jones, complained that the recent hike in commercial water rates and other taxes will severely hurt the industry. Ware says he's open to talks, but the farmers must bring the evidence.
But you have not done the quantitative analysis to justify what you're saying. Neither have you taken into consideration the many financial benefits agriculture enjoys currently through the Ministry of Agriculture in terms of concessions, in terms of discounts. All of those things have to be considered before we make a determination as to what the true final cost will be. Yes, there has been an increase in water. We know this. But we need to understand that there has been an increase in cost to government as well in terms of the inputs that we either underwrite or support for agriculture as well. So let's have a real reasonable, wholesome conversation about the matter. Now, if it is that the increase has driven the price of poultry products up and that the consumer will have to pay more, that is sad. I don't agree that the consumer should have to pay more. But our harsh reality is that we cannot operate on the basis of generic statements being made.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To the region now, teachers in St. Lucia are not joining threats to boycott the marking of the Caribbean Examination Council's school-based assessments just yet. However, the president of the Caribbean Union of Teachers says it's time to pay the educators. Julian Monrose told HCS News Force that the issue has been festering for close to 13 years and Caribbean teachers have had enough.
Dialogue on compensation for teachers for grading school-based assessments, SBAs, set by the Caribbean Examinations Council is not new. In fact, the president of the Caribbean Teachers Union, CTU, says teachers have been calling for payment for that service since 2006. Julian Monrose told News Force on Thursday that the union has engaged the ministries of education in every country where students sit CXC exams, as well as the Barbados-based Caribbean Examinations Council, CXC. He says after almost 13 years, the teachers have done enough talking and it's time for action.
The CXC SBA is part of an examination. In fact, it is a paper. So in some exams you have paper 1, paper 2, and then you have the SBA. Some exams you have orals, you have practicals. All the other aspects of the CXC are paid for. So the person who marks the final exam gets paid. The people who come to do the orals, they get paid. The SBA requires a lot of work beyond that that the teacher should do as part of the regular duty.
On the international front, the head of Sudan's military council has stood down a day after leading a coup that toppled longtime leader Omar al-Bashir amid a wave of protests. The defense minister announced his decision on state TV. It comes after protesters refused to leave the streets, saying the coup leaders were too close to Bashir. The army has said it will stay in power for 2 years, followed by elections. The share's downfall followed months of unrest that began in December over rising prices. At least 38 people have died in the protests. That's news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as Screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM. I'm Carol Williams. Have a good weekend.